Hi candidates, welcome to another session of manifested online classes. We are still soldiering on with the syllabus coverage, and in this particular session I want us to look on related party disclosure, which is under IS 24, International Accounting Standard number 24, and also IPSAS 20. But it is also important, first of all, for you to know that IPSAS 20, these applies to public sector entities, whereas IAS 24, International Accounting Standard number 24, this applies to what we refer as the profit oriented entities, those particular entities which operate with an objective of making a profit. Now, in this particular topic here, we're going to first of all define who are related parties. Then from there we look on what is the objective of these two standards, IS 24, IPSAS 20, and also we define what is a related party transaction, and basically we also look on the information which need to be disclosed as far as the related parties are are concerned. But to start with, International Accounting Standard number 24 and also IPSAS 20 requires the profit-oriented entities and also the public sector entities to disclose any relationship, or to disclose what we refer as a related party transactions, any transaction with a related party, and also what we refer as a related or a relationship with the related parties. So this particular disclosure is important to help the users of the financial statement to understand the potential impact, or basically to understand the potential effect of the related party transactions and also the related party relationship on the financial performance and also what we refer as the financial position of of the entity. So therefore, first of all, we can say that IAS 24 and also IPSAS. So we can say that IAS 24 and IPSAS 2020 requires profit-oriented entities, and the public sector entities to disclose transactions and relationship with related parties, So basically what that means is that any entity, be it a profit oriented entity or be it a public sector entity, such an entity is required to disclose transactions with the related parties and also a relationship with related parties. And basically you're saying that this particular disclosure is crucial, is basically important to help the users of the financial statements to understand the potential effect, the potential impact of the related party transactions and the relationship on the performance and also the position of the entity. So therefore you can say that this is crucial, basically is important, this is crucial to users of financial statements in understanding the potential impact, or basically the potential effect on the related, or basically the potential impact on the financial performance and financial position of an entity of an entity. So therefore the users will be in a position to understand the potential effect or basically impact of what referred as the transactions and relationship by an entity with who we refer to as the related parties, with who we refer to as the related what? Parties. Now, this particular standard, that is IS 24, it is important to note that it applies to what refer as the profit-oriented entities, whereas IPSAS 20, this applies to public sector entities, including not for profit making what organization. So therefore you can look on the scope of these two standards, a scope of IS 24 and IPSAS 20, and we say that IS 24 applies to profit oriented entities, while IPSAS 20 applies to public sector entities, and not for profit profit organizations. So therefore we can say that is one of the main difference between these two standards, because we are saying International Accounting Standard number 24, this will apply to the profit-oriented entities. Profit-oriented entities are those particular entities which operate with a motive of making profit. They sell some goods now to the members of the public or provide services to the members of the public in order to make some profit. But on the other hand, when we talk about IPSAS 20, we are saying that these will apply to public sector entities. When we talk about the public sector entities, these include entities such as parastatals, what you refer as the county government, the central government, and actually we know that those particular entities, they are not profit oriented, but rather they are supposed to, or they should provide essential services to the members of the public, And also IPSAS 20 here, these apply to not-for-profit making organizations. Not-for-profit making organizations, usually these are charitable organizations. Those particular organizations may be which support the needy families and so on. So therefore, when these particular entities, that is the public sector entities and not-for-profit making organizations, are preparing their financial statements, then we are saying, according to IPSAS 20, they need to disclose any transaction with a related party, and also they need to disclose the related they have with the related parties. With the related parties. We're going to define who is a related party, and also we are going to define what is a related party, a transaction. But on the other hand, we are saying any profit oriented entity, when preparing the financial statement, is required by IS 24 now to do what? To disclose any transaction with a related party and to disclose its relationship with who? With the related parties. And therefore, we can proceed, and now we define those two terms here. Let's look on the definition of terms. So here we have two terms we need to define. So the first term is a related party transaction. A related party transaction. So when talk about a related party transaction, basically this is a transaction between an entity which can either be a public sector entity, which can be a profit-oriented entity, or not for profit making organization with a related party. But this particular transaction specifically under IS 24 and also under IPSAS 20 is defined as what? So we say that this is a transfer. This is a transfer of a resource. Is a transfer of a resource, service, or obligation, service or obligation between related parties, between related parties, whether a price or a consideration, whether a price or a consideration is paid or not, is paid or not, is paid or not. Any transfer of a resource, a transfer of a service, or obligation between related parties, whether a price or a consideration has been paid, is a related party transaction. A good example of a related party transaction is a transaction between a company and a director. Between a company and a director. So basically, a director is a related party. So because a related party, generally we say, is any person who is in a position to influence. That is, any person who is in a position to influence or basically control those particular decisions which will be made by an entity. So therefore, we know a director is a person who is in a position to influence or even control those particular decisions which will be made by this company. So therefore, any transaction between a company and a director, for example, the director provided some services to the company here, and maybe he was to be paid some amount of money. Or maybe a director here is given a contract by this company, maybe to provide certain services or to supply certain goods. That is a related party transaction, is a transaction between an entity here and a director who is a related party, So that is the first term you need to, or basically you must be in a position to define. The other term is a related party. Related party. So who is a related party? So a related party in this case, we say that is any individual or basically any entity who can directly or basically indirectly control or have a significant influence over a reporting entity. So we are saying that this is either an individual or basically an entity who can directly or indirectly control or have a significant influence over the reporting entity. So we say that this is an individual or entity who can directly or indirectly control or have significant influence over the reporting entity. Any individual or basically an entity who can directly or indirectly control. We are talking of controlling the decisions which will be made by the reporting entity, or a person who can influence those particular decisions which will be made by the reporting entity. Such a person is said to be a related party. Now in this case we have good examples of related parties. Examples of related parties include number one, we have basically a subsidiary, associate, or a joint arrangement. So number one, you can say we have a subsidiary, associate, and joint venture. So basically these usually are priced in a group of companies. So a parent company having a subsidiary, associate, or a joint venture, those are related parties. parties. They are related parties as far as the parent entity is what is concerned. Number two, we also have the key management personnel. Key management personnel. Key management personnel. So those guys who are involved in the management of or basically managing the affairs of the company, company, including their cross-related family members. So in fact, number three here we can say that family members of key management personnel. And actually when we talk about the management personnel of an entity, we are talking of directors, we are talking of for example the senior managers in an organization, including the CEO or the chief executive officer. Those are key management staff. They are related parties, including their family members. For example, if we have like a director, or basically the wife of a director, we can say is a related party. So that person can be able to influence those particular decisions which will be made in an organization. In an organization. So that is basically the other example of a related party. So the other example of a related party are those particular entities under common control. Entities under common control with the reporting entity. Entities under common control with the reporting entity. So basically here we are talking of now like a scenario whereby we have a group of companies. A scenario whereby we have a group of companies. So the parent company is a related party to the subsidiary. The parent company is a related party to the associate, is a related party to who? To a joint venture, to a joint a venture. So therefore, we have these are some of the related parties. So also number 4 here, the other example of that is number 5. The other example of a related party basically is any individual or any entity that has significant influence over the reporting entity. So any individual or basically any entity that has significant influence over the reporting entity. Any individual or entity having significant influence over the reporting entity. Mostly here we are referring, for example, a parent company. A parent company has significant influence over the associate. So therefore, the parent company, as far as the associate is concerned, is a related party because a parent company has significant influence over the operating and financial decisions made by the associate. So therefore, a parent company is a related party as far as the associate is as far as the associate is concerned. Another good example of a related party is what we refer as the post-employment benefit plan. Post-employment benefit plan that are supposed now to pay some pension to the employees of an entity. So we are talking of the post-employment benefit plan, number 6. Post-employment benefit plan, benefits plans that pay pension to entities employees, So therefore, these are basically some of the good examples of the related parties, and actually we are saying that all these particular parties, because they are related to an entity, they can directly or indirectly control or influence the reporting entity, or basically the decision, that is the operating and financial decisions which will be made by the reporting entity. And therefore what we have said is that according to this particular two standard, IS 24 IPSAS 20, the profit oriented entities, the public sector entities, and also not-for-profit making organizations, they must disclose any transaction with a related party and the relationship which such entities do have with the related parties. So next we can look on the information to be disclosed as far as the related parties are concerned. So we look on the disclosure requirements. And we can say that IAS 24 and IPSAS 20 requires entities. So, and here we are talking of the profit-oriented entities, the public sector entities, and not-for-profit making organizations require entities to disclose the following. In relation to related parties. So which information need to be disclosed? So the first information which these entities are required to disclose is the name of the related parties and the description of the relationship with the entity. That is what? The name of the related party, name of related party, and description of relationship with the reporting entity. So the name of the related party, whether it is an entity or basically an individual, the name of that related party must be disclosed, and also a short description of the relationship between the related entity, that is the related party, and the reporting entity, entity. So that is the first information which entities are required to disclose as far as the related parties are concerned. So the other information which also need to be disclosed is the compensation paid to key management personnel. That is compensation paid to key management personnel, including what? Including the salaries. So we are saying any payment to the key management staff, for example, or any payment to the key management personnel, like any payment which was made to the directors, including their what? Their salaries, including any bonus which is paid to them, any bonus paid to them, and any other form of benefit. So all this particular information we need to be disclosed by the entity. For example, how much amount was paid to the directors as directors' fees? How much amount was paid to the directors as salaries? So all that particular information will need to be to be disclosed. So the other information which also need to be disclosed is the nature and extent of the transaction with the related parties. Number 3, we are talking of what? Nature and extent. Of a transaction with a related party. Nature and extent of transaction with the related party. So basically, which was a transaction or which transaction happened between the reporting entity and a related party. And good examples of such transactions include what refer as the sales, what refer as the purchases, and also services rendered. For example, if there was sales between the parent company and the subsidiary, if there was sales between the parent company and associate, was there some services rendered by related parties? For example, are there services rendered to the company by its directors, and maybe the directors were paid some amount of money? So that the nature of the transaction and also the extent of the same also need to be disclosed. And the other information which also need to be disclosed is the amount outstanding in relation to related party transactions. Related party transactions. So how much amount was not yet paid by the reporting entity in relation to the related party transaction? If maybe there was a transaction between the related parties, a transaction between, for example, the parent company and a subsidiary, a transaction between a reporting entity and the directors, and maybe there was an amount of money which was not paid. As far as that transaction is concerned, that amount outstanding at the end of the year must be what? Must be disclosed. So therefore, this is the disclosure requirements, or basically some of the information which need to be disclosed by the reporting entities in accordance with IAS 24 and also in accordance with the IPSAS what? IPSAS 20. So before we wind up, I want to give some assignment here, and it reads question 1. In context of International Accounting Standard number 24 and IPSAS 20, explain number 1, the scope of IAS 24 and IPSAS 20. Number 2, related party. Number 3, related party transaction. Question 2, highlight 5 examples of related parties. And number 3, explain the disclosure requirements as per International Accounting Standard number 24 and IPSAS 20. So that brings us to the end of that session. See you in the next session.